The Sweet Sound of Success show is brought to you by the Mentor Studio. The Mentor Studio is an exclusive mentoring and training program for social influencers, business owners, entrepreneurs, coaches, and startups, bringing personal development to the underserved around the world. This is the Sweet Sound of Success with Sue Wilhite, Profit Attraction Master. Seth Greene is the nation's foremost authority on growing your business with a direct response marketing podcast. Seth is the co-host of the Sharkprenuer podcast with Shark Tank's Kevin Harrington, which was named the number 6 podcast to listen to in 2019. He is also the founder of the direct response marketing firm Market Domination, LLC, and he is an 8-time best-selling author who has been interviewed on NBC News, CBS News, Forbes, Inc., CBS Moneywatch, and many more. Seth Greene, thank you so much for being on my show.
Sue, thank you so much for having me. I am super excited to be here.
Oh boy, this is going to be a fun interview because I always find out something about my guests that I never knew. And this is going to be great fun. So for my viewing audience, the subtitle of this podcast is The Hero's Journey for the Entrepreneur's Soul. And so what we end up doing is talking about the five of the stages of Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey. And so what we're going to be talking about is Seth's ordinary beginning, the call to action, what brought him to the entrepreneur's path, the big hairy monsters that pretty much every entrepreneur gets to deal with. They might be bigger or hairier in some cases than others, but they're big hairy monsters. And two things that I think are really important for entrepreneurs. One are allies, mentors, guides, partners, supporters that never gets talked about when you see the entrepreneur, in real life, that just gets glossed over. And then how does the entrepreneur deal with what Joseph Campbell calls the coming home, which is once you've become an entrepreneur, once you've accepted that first bit of cash for whatever it is that you've done, you're different than the folks back home, typically. And how does that work? Are you different? Is there a difference? How do you deal with that? Do you get my not quite favorite question? So when are you going to get a real job? Right? So Seth, what was your ordinary beginning?
Wow. So my ordinary beginning, I started out as an actor. At the age of 18, I wanted to be a Broadway star. So
Woo-hoo.
I went to Syracuse University because they had one of the top 3 musical theater departments in the country.
Right.
And every semester, my dad would freak out when he got the tuition bill and tell me I would have to move back home, live at home, get a job, do dishes, do chores, all the no girls over, all that fun stuff.
Right.
So it took a couple semesters of me to realize he was going to keep doing this every single semester. And out of that pain, I decided I did not, even though I finished my theatrical degree, I did not want to starve in New York as a waiter because I felt like I was starving already.
Right.
Thanks to my dad. So I pursued a career as a college financial aid planner, where at howtofindmoneyforcollege.com, we save our families an average of $19,077 per year per child on college tuition.
Woo.
So I got all my licenses in the securities and financial services industry, went to work for a Fortune 500 company where my first day of live production, after all my training was done, my branch manager said, I got you a book where all of your clients are going to come from your entire career. I said, this is amazing. I'm young. I'm going to be rich. I'm going to get a Ferrari. Give me the book. And he gave me the phone book. He literally handed me the yellow pages and said, they're all in there, Tiger, go get them. And I did not know any better. So I listened and made 300 cold calls a day, interrupting strangers, asking for money. And I absolutely hated it. And several years later, I had the good fortune, I hadn't, shot myself in the head yet, but I had the good fortune to find legendary marketing guru Dan Kennedy. I begged my wife for 30 days to let me borrow more than our mortgage on our house to go hire Dan. She, after 30 days of nagging, she finally said yes. And I went from the last place rep out of 6,700 reps to the top 30 nationwide for opening new business. That got me written about in a whole bunch of trade journals for our industry. And this was all 20 years ago before the internet.
Oh my goodness.
It was all done via direct mail and print advertising.
Wow.
And my phone started ringing off the hook with advisors who wanted to do what I did. So I faxed Dan and asked him what I should do. And he said, you should start a marketing company and do it for them. So 14 years ago, I started Market Domination LLC.com. That was me and one financial advisor I was willing to let hire me. It worked. It took off. 14 years later, we have 43 awesome staff members. We have served thousands of clients in 63 different industries because we've branched out because the principles apply no matter what business you're in. So that is the, as short as I can make it pretty much, version of my journey.
Wow. Wow. So just as a side note, do you think acting did anything for you as far as all of this?
Absolutely. I figured that if I could stand on stage in front of 2,000 people and convince them and have that take them on an emotional journey, and convince them I was in the middle of the Civil War, for example, that selling college financial planning would be easy. Now, I was wrong. It wasn't easy. However, the public speaking I learned, the improvisation I learned, the confidence I got, the understanding, a lot of theatrical training is understanding what makes people tick. Human psychology. Why is your character doing what they're doing? How can you relate to that? So I think that psychological and public speaking and communication background was invaluable to inform my confidence and my sales process and my ability to build rapport and bond with people. And without it, I don't think our business would be half the size it is now.
Nice. Yes. So, all you budding entrepreneurs out there, go take an acting class.
Right?
Seriously. So your call to action was basically not wanting to starve.
Yes. My call to action was my father driving me crazy.
Yeah.
And my aversion to being like, oh my God, if I go starve as a waiter in New York City, if I get my big break, a large percentage of my life is going to be the same. Oh my God, there's not enough money, scarcity consciousness, living on ramen noodles. And I had already done that. When I realized it was real.
Right.
For example, I saw my friends who were a year or two ahead of me at Syracuse graduate, go to New York City or LA, and then come back to visit like 6 months, a year later. And they told stories of all their stuff was in storage. They were sleeping on friends' couches. Their apartments were the size of postage stamps. You could reach both walls with two hands at the same time. They said, oh my God, it's real. And I said, that's going to happen to me. They're better than I am. They're more talented. They have a better voice. They have more skills. They're a better dancer. And they're starving. That's real. I really don't want to starve. I got to go do this college financial aid planning thing and have a real career.
Right. Right. So aside from figuring out the phone book, what were some of the other big hairy monsters that you got to deal with?
Wow. Okay. So there were a lot. I mean, over the decades, big hairy monsters, people not responding to our marketing campaigns and having to tweak and pivot and figure out how we make one that gets people to actually do what we want. Learning how to build systems to grow a business, hiring people, firing people, learning, spending the money, but because someone told me it was coming and then they flaked out on me.
Right.
If there's a mistake to be made in growing a business, I've probably made it.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. That hiring and firing part. that's got to be one of the more, except for certain personality types, that's got to be one of the more frightening parts of growing your business as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dealing with that.
Yes, there's the, oh my God, I'm hiring this I have to trust that this person can do the job, and I have to gamble my money ahead of time. I have to pay them to find out if it's going to work out.
Right.
And then when it doesn't work out, God, the first person I fired, I was terrified.
Right.
You've never done it before. And I think I lost sleep for 4 or 5 nights in a row before I finally had built up the courage to let them go. And it was they were like, oh my God, thank you. I'm like, really? They're like, I knew it wasn't going to work out. I was waiting for this to happen. I'm like, well, why didn't you tell me?
Right.
So, I mean, I've had employees steal from us. I've had employees lie. I've had employees go to jail, not for working with us. I've had employees find out they were on drugs. It's crazy. The people who are out there in the workforce that come to work for you.
Right. But you've also got some really cool people working for you now.
Yes, we do. Out of all of the people, we've kept about 44 as of today. We're constantly hiring. So we've kept a core team that is growing on a regular basis of people who have consumed the Kool-Aid and are awesome and a joy to work with pretty much every day.
Nice. Because you got good Kool-Aid.
Yes, we have very good Kool-Aid.
So talk about, besides obviously the core of people that you've got working with you, which I'm assuming would be part of the group that I was going to talk about, but talk about, allies, mentors. I call them Gandalfs and Dumbledores. The folks that took you by the hand and led you, or the folks that stood beside you and, cheered you on.
Wow. I've had a lot of good fortune in that department. I realized in my particular case, it was easier to what I call buy your way in, to write a check, or in my case, I borrowed the money that I did not have and had no hope of making to write, which I don't necessarily recommend, to write the check to get mentorship and hire the coach who could compress decades into days and get me faster to where I wanted to be. So the first one was Dan Kennedy. I guess you could say my first manager, who said, smile and dial all day, was a negative mentor. He showed me what I didn't want.
Right.
And then Dan showed me what was possible and taught me, and is responsible for all of the businesses I own today. I stay in touch and still work once in a while with Dan. I have since had many more mentors. I've had the good fortune that through the business and the podcast and the things that we built, the people who are household names in my industry, who I, in essence, started out or grew up in the business, watching them on stage at a conference, running to the back of the room to buy their course, now are clients or friends and text me questions, and I have great relationships with them and can ask them whatever I want without having to write a check anymore. So everybody from Jay Abraham to Rich Sheffrin to Roland Frazier to John Lee Dumas to Russell Brunson are folks who I still to this day look up to, but now get to call friends, which is a blessing.
Right. And you're not the first entrepreneur, nor do I think you'll be the last, who said, initially you just got to buy your mentorship. Sometimes it's really cool. Somebody comes around for free and takes you under your wing. And sometimes it's totally worth it to spend the money that you don't think you have in order to get what you need.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, my first year as a marketing firm, and I still own the college business as well and still grow that every day. But I mean, that first year, I think we made $6,000 in revenue.
Right.
And now it's a multi-million-dollar, multi-company empire. So none of that would have happened if I hadn't have taken the risk. I would still be at that Fortune 500 company, and I'd still be smiling and hopefully I would have had enough clients 14 years later that I wouldn't have to smile and dial anymore. Right. But again, that was what was taught as the primary way to get business. Right.
And I guess the biggest point that I want to make with this is you can't do it by yourself. it's just not possible to be an entrepreneur and work in a vacuum and either not get help, by buying it, or not get help by running into somebody who's generous enough to support you in what it is that you want to do.
Sure.
And,
I mean, you can read and learn that way and watch listen to podcasts like yours and watch endless YouTube videos. And I still do all of those things. I listen to podcasts and watch videos and take courses. Now I get people who just send them to me because they want to promote them. So I don't have to pay for all of them anymore, which is really nice. I learned a lot that way, but I realized I wanted the one-on-one access. I wanted the help do it with me, help do it for me to get there faster.
Right. Exactly. And that one-on-one stuff, I think, forces you to listen to what it is that they're saying.
Yes.
And hopefully take action on what it is that they're telling you to do.
Absolutely.
Because you can't do it otherwise. Nothing happens. You can take all the courses, have all the mentors in the world, but if you don't do what they tell you to do, you've just lost your money.
Absolutely. 100%.
Right. So given that your dad was not necessarily supportive of your acting career.
No. Okay.
No?
So I want to correct that before you finish that question. They were very supportive of my acting career. The issue was he felt he couldn't afford Syracuse and they were the ones who were nice enough to say, yes, you can go to college for theater. So he freaked out every semester about how much money it cost. And magically, I did get to go all 4 years and graduate from there. He thankfully was nice enough to get a second job to pay for it.
Okay. Kudos. Props to dad. Sorry about that.
Even though he drove me nuts, I will give him props for saying, yes, you can go to a very expensive private college for theater, which is obviously not the most practical degree to pursue.
Right. But what would we do without them?
Right.
As the pandemic proved. So what was the response to you? Or did you do it in parallel when you were still smiling? Were you still smiling and dialing while you were building up the Market Domination company?
Well, so no. So what I learned from Dan and what Dan and I did together brought me from the 6,700th last place rep to the top 30. So we did it in my college, in my financial services business first. It worked incredibly well. I never had to cold call again. And then when I got written about it, it started the marketing firm helping other advisors do what I did.
Got it. So it was sort of in parallel.
No.
No. So you quit
through the financial services firm first.
Got it.
It worked. And because of that, it launched a marketing firm helping other advisors.
Got it. So I would gather then that given you'd proven it out, was there any backlash of, launching your own?
No, there no backlash. So, I ultimately left that Fortune 500 company to start my own financial services firm and separate from them. And I also did it to launch the marketing firm as well, because a conservative Fortune 500 company for financial services wasn't the ideal place to launch. They didn't necessarily want me launching a separate marketing company.
No. That yes, I could see where they would have a problem with that. So your family and friends were already on board with you doing this.
Which they didn't know. So the only person who knew I was starting a marketing firm was my wife.
Okay.
She had obviously seen the success after she said yes to letting me borrow the money.
Right.
So she supported me helping other people do the same thing and eliminating the pain they were feeling that I had gone through. So she was the only one who knew about it at the time. And obviously now we're kind of famous.
Right. Right. So, so you didn't necessarily, you sort of sidestepped the whole coming home part of, hi, folks, I'm an entrepreneur now. And they look at you funny.
Well, I left the Fortune 500 company to start my own firm. And that was a huge leap, given that I was at a secure Fortune 500 corporate job.
Right.
There was then the fact that I went and started my own firm when there were other firms that would have given me a multi-six-figure signing bonus to move my client base to them, which
Right.
I passed up and in fact borrowed the money to start my new firm.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So you did get some astonished looks, at least from your old coworkers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. My former best friend at the Fortune 500 company, who I had lunch with like every day, when I told him I was leaving to start my own firm, he said, it's the biggest mistake of your life. You're going to lose all your clients. And in a year, you'll be working tech support at Best Buy. And we're no longer friends. And a year later, after I left, he left and started his own company because he saw that I did not fall on my face and all my clients did not leave.
Right. So you got to be the example.
Yes.
Well, that's a wonderful place to be.
Yes.
Being able to do that. So, Seth, I have a bonus question for you. Of all of the things, so you've got at least a couple of different companies going on now. The Market Domination, I understand, is in bits and pieces, as it were. Of all of the things that you personally do as part of your business, what is your favorite thing that if somebody says, Seth, you've got to do X, you'd light up like a Christmas tree, like, Saks Fifth Avenue at Christmas? What would you love to do?
Wow. So my favorite parts of the job, obviously I like podcasting and being on amazing podcasts like yours. I love coming up with the vision for the marketing for a client. And I love writing them when I get a chance to write some of the marketing copy for their campaigns.
Nice. So if anybody says, hey, Seth, want to help out with this client? You'd be like, yeah, give it to me.
Yes.
Perfect. Any last words of wisdom from Seth Greene?
I will tell you my favorite quote of all time is from Dr. Corey Melnikoff, who said, who you are affects how well what you do works. And I've discovered that our business, if you view yourself as the energy container, the container that holds the financial and emotional energy of your business, what I found is our business doesn't take an exponential leap just because I learn a new whiz-bang marketing technique, even though it should on paper. It really grows when I evolve as a person, as a leader, as a husband, as a father, as an entrepreneur. And when I make a leap myself, then the business grows to meet me. So I would say work on yourself and the business will grow to catch up.
Yes, absolutely. I've seen that over and over and over again in my work. Not only personally, but folks that I coach. Yes. On paper, some things should work, but until you've made that shift, nothing's going to happen.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much, Seth, for being on my show. Again, I think it's an incredible honor for you to be here. I really enjoyed talking to you. I've learned stuff, and I hope my viewers have learned something. And thank you, my viewers, for watching The Sweet Sound of Success. What are your dreams for your business? You know what drives me crazy? Really smart business owners denying their talents because they've been taught it has to be hard, because they've been taught that they don't deserve their gifts, that they're not worth anything. They've been taught that their gender means they can't express their genius. I'm Sue Wilhite, and I want you to have access to your genius. I want you to go out and rock the world with your genius. So I created the Call to Action coaching program. It's all about getting to the heart of you and what you've got to share with the world to make a profitable business that thrives and allows you to make a difference in the world. Click the link to sign up for the Call to Action coaching program today. Don't let your genius go unnoticed.